Alright, so we're going to talk a little bit about some watercolor techniques today. And so the first thing that we want to do is we want to talk about the parts of the brush. Okay, so you've got your bristles, and then you've got this metal part that holds the bristles. It's called a ferrule. Okay, and it's very important that you don't get any paint up into the ferrule because it will cause the bristles to rot and fall out, and that won't be good. Okay, so the techniques that I'm going to show you, I'm going to show you first. It's called wet on dry, and it sounds very much like it is. So we're going to take wet paint and we're going to put it on dry paper. So first I'm going to get a good amount of water into this pigment. I'm going to rotate it around. Now notice how I kind of rotate my bristles. I want them to kind of stay together. Okay, I don't want to like jab at it because I don't want to get that paint up into the ferrule. Okay, now I'm going to do a brushing technique that's called a wash. Okay, and that's where I paint with lots of pigment and water very quickly to get a nice even kind of spread. Okay. And then if I need to go back over, if I have any spots that are kind of not what I want them to be, or where the paint has kind of clumped up, and I can hit that again with just a clean brush. Okay, now the second technique is called wet on wet. So I'm going to get clean water and I'm going to paint it in one area. I'm not going to paint my whole paper. I'm just going to paint the area that I'm actually going to be painting at the moment. And I'm going to load up my brush, paint, and I'm going to drop it in there, and you can see how the water that's already on the paper causes that pigment to go ahead and spread out. Okay. Now the reason why I might want to do that is I might want to kind of mix colors on the fly and on the page itself. So now when I drop in this nice blue, you can see that those colors actually mix together on the paper because of the wetness there, and I can get kind of some cool blending effects and things. Gravity kind of takes over the rest. Okay, so that's how you can kind of get a cool little blending effect. The other thing that you can do with this brush is you can do some drawing techniques. So you see how I get that nice and wet. And I'm gonna rotate my bristles, keep a nice fine point, and then I will be able to draw very thin lines with that brush with just very light pressure. So if I want to have kind of a hatching or even some cross hatching to do some shading, you can do that. You can do pointillism. You can put just dots of color in. Okay. That's an impressionist technique, doing pointillism. And then if I put other colors in there, other dots of color, they visually mix. Sometimes they literally mix because it's wet. But, so I can do pointillism to create value changes as well with some color in them. It's very important that you completely let your layers dry before you paint over them. Okay. Now you can see this one is still damp, and so if I were to try and paint something over that, you'll see what happens. So I'm going to try and paint something that I want to have kind of a solid yellow to, but you see how, oh no, I can't get a good solid edge because it kind of spiders out in all those directions. That's because that's still wet. Okay, but if I were to take something that was already dry, I have some examples over here. So this, I have this wash here that's completely dry. Okay, so now if I want to paint something over that, I can do nice, crisp, clean lines, and they're not going to spread out like crazy. Okay, now you'll notice here the color that I was actually painting with is red, and this is the color. I'm going to bring it all the way down in here so you can see the difference. So down here you've got red, but up here you've got this real deep purple. Okay, that's because this paint is translucent. So any layer that you put, that layer will be, the layers will mix together. Okay. So what happens when you mix three primary colors together? You'll remember on your color wheel the primary colors are yellow and blue and red. And when you mix red and yellow, you get orange. Yellow and blue makes green, and blue and red makes purple. Okay. If you mix all three of the colors together, you get brown. So if I take yellow, because purple, remember, is blue and red, if I take yellow, that's the third complementary color, and I paint over this purple, you're going to see that it actually turns brown and doesn't stay yellow. Whereas if I continue that color down into the paper, you can see that color is yellow. And I'm not just messing with your eyes here. Okay? So those are the major painting techniques that you're going to use. Another one that gets really messy that you might not want to do at home unless you're willing to clean it up is spatter painting. And you can see there's all various areas on my desk where I've spatter painted. If you just take your finger and use it as a stopping point, and you can kind of flick your brush, okay, you can create a splatter on your page. Okay. The other thing that you can do is if you have a stiff brush. This is not a stiff brush, but you can flick like that. Now this brush it would never work with because these bristles are very soft. You see that? You'd need a very stiff bristled brush to do that method. Okay, a toothbrush, an old toothbrush actually works really well for that. So you might want to get just some texture or something in an area, and that might be the way to do it. So other than that, that is it. The point of this is to have fun with it, not to make it perfect, but I do want to see what you all come up with and how you end up experimenting on your own.